it's not allowing the camshaft adjuster to actuate. The sprocket rotates around the bolt hole, and so this surface plate here and the sprocket rotates, whereas that stays fixed, and the rest of it stays fixed. So if it's not allowing the camshaft adjuster to rotate freely enough, then you're probably going to get some clatter, which is what I think is what's happening with mine, because it's all based on the computer-controlled solenoid valve. The camshaft adjuster valve and a solenoid valve has two positions, on-off. So it's whacking one set of hydraulic cylinders one way, and then it slaps the other set of hydraulic cylinders the other way, and so by constantly oscillating, it maintains a dynamic tension, which gives you the exact positioning of your intake camshaft as far as what the computer believes is ideal. So that's how that works, and as I said, that this has an internal locking mechanism which is hydraulically actuated. And it can seize, so if it's seized, you can pull it apart. What happened with mine is, due to the fact that it was seized, I was getting a camshaft crankshaft correlation error, and as a result, that drove me crazy for a while. After eliminating every other possibility, this was the only link in the top end powertrain to disassemble in order to get it to start functioning again. Alright, what we have here is a difficulty with the camshaft adjuster sprocket. There's a shear pin right here that ordinarily protrudes 3/16 or so. It's just loose in there, it sets in there. Well, it's a sheared pin, so this is rotating freely on the camshaft. Now, the adjuster bolt was torqued at 80 foot-pounds. One video I seem to recall said that 90 foot-pounds was what he torqued it at. The DVD-ROM manual torque specs are generally not trustworthy. They just put really high torques on there to absolve them from liability, and then they give you, a half or so turn extra, 90 degrees turn extra, just for good measure. So you really don't know what the torque specs are. Alright, so that was a successful removal from the hole there. The remainder of the shear pin is on the tip of the drill. The drill actually pulled it right out. I didn't need an easy out, so that's all set there. Of course, you have to remember which hole it came from. It's closest to the mark, and if you forget that, ordinarily there's a little dark spot right there next to the pin, so that's not going to be too hard to remember. So this is soft iron, and it's pretty certain that that can be a handmade part from a regular piece of metal stock. I'll have to check and see if I can find one to buy it. Therefore, I fabricated one out of nail. That was 5/32 right there, 5/32 nail, whatever size that is. The thing with this is that it's really friction fit in there, so you're gonna have to carefully file it down, mount the nail in there and cut it and file it down until it fits in while it's still attached. While it's still attached, you fit it in there. When it's getting pretty snug, feels like it's going in part way, then that's good. And then you cut off the nub and finish it up and tap it in there, because there's really nothing holding that, and you want to be able to fit that in there so that it stays put, at which point it's going to be a real close fit onto the camshaft behind it, which is fine. So you're going to want to fit that to the camshaft end first to make sure it's going to go in there. You might want to make this end a little smaller or something to fit it in. I got mine so it fit in just perfect, so that works. Okay, now this camshaft adjuster has been worked on once before. I had it apart when I thought it was seized. I did get it to work last time. The problem being is that these bolts are also beveled in a little bit, machine screws, whatever, so they're prone to stripping. They're on the verge of stripping when you take them out. This one did strip, so I had to take a small chisel and hammer some new points in there. Well, first I drilled it out, and then I hammered the new points in there, and then I put a bit that's 2 sizes larger in there so that'll fit. So the way to get good tension on these when you're doing it so that you don't strip it is once again, you got to get some pressure on it, pretty much a similar arrangement as what we had going with the camshaft adjuster. So you set it up like that, basically. And let's see how it goes. Of course, it can't be too tight here. It needs a little bit of space to actually strip, but that helps to stabilize it. And there it goes. That moved. So, of course, all you got to do is start it. So that's how you keep from stripping your bolts. So there's nothing too scary inside. There's one small spring right here, and that spring aligns with the little rubber slider right there, so that's loose. The spring is not high compression, it's just a small spring. The spring holds your locking mechanism in place, because what you have is 2 sets of hydraulic chambers, so that when the inner ring gets pushed over, when it's unlocked, it gets pushed over, and then your other hydraulic set is where this spot is instead of over here. So these 2 pieces are constantly going back and forth like that if it's not seized. Alright, so I have it apart. It actuates very nicely. It was actually a little bit stuck. I think that is the problem. I said the locking mechanism for this actually it's more of a hydraulic valve. So this is what causes the oil to either flow through this port here or the port down below. So either way, it directs the flow of oil, locks it in place. Well, it hydraulically locks it because the cylinders are filled, so once this is all closed up, then you're not going to be able to move that ring. So it's not a physical lock, it's a hydraulic lock. So you have to have oil pressure in the right port in order to pop that lock and turn that without disassembling it. I would recommend that as part of the overall camshaft adjuster procedure, that this is a routine part of that procedure, that you will want to disassemble the camshaft adjuster itself and make sure that it does freely actuate. And it seems I had it apart further last time. Now this is a locking pin physically as well, as I recalled. You can see that the recess for it is right there, so that pin goes all the way down in it. So this piece actually moves on there, or is supposed to, and that's where I'm seized up. And the reason is that when it's sheared, it stressed the metal in here, and I need to be able to separate those and get that to physically turn more. So it's probably not enough torque on the bolt is what happened. So I'm going to have to work on this a bit to get it to move freely. Probably have a little bit of metal scrap and some edges and such that I have to work on in order to... There it is. Okay. Slippery little sucker, as they say. Alright, so yeah, we got a little bit of a thin edge there, I see. That probably flared a bit. Alright, so I cleaned them up a bit. You can see where the parts are scored. Basically what you have is the underside of the bolt head is at an angle, and apparently under stress it actually is pushing material out and making it flare a bit, so that makes you wonder again just how tight that torque ought to be. What I've done is I've got my finest file, and I'm just going to lightly touch it up all along on the outside here, and the inside, just have to try and polish that the best I can. Okay, so the use of a fine file with a file card, definitely a necessity. A little bit of a polishing Dremel. On the inside here especially, you can't really get anything else in there, so maybe a chainsaw file, but that's pretty rough. I don't know if I'd do that. So these fit together rather nicely at this point, and a little bit stiff getting down in there, but there's the alignment spot, so you want them to move fairly easily. Alright, so we have unseized the camshaft adjuster. We have reassembled it and just used light machine oil. To put it back together. And now it's important to get a reasonably good torque estimate to these machine screws. My torque wrench, my smaller torque wrench, The lowest it'll go is 12 foot-pounds, so I don't think that's probably a very good idea. So it's going to be an estimate. That's what it comes down to. So you just want to do it carefully, but good enough. So you want them tight, but not too tight because of the danger of stripping. So that's that one. Maybe 10, I don't know.